This is episode 5 of the Trash Talk podcast. This is the second recording of it. I did the whole first recording and it went up and I thought it was trash, so I just got rid of it. And now I'm doing a complete new one. So today I'm talking about Kawhi and DeMar, the trade that went down, Spurs and Raptors. There was a lot of controversy around this trade. I just want to talk about the implications of a trade like this, both what it means for the league in terms of basketball and what it means for the league in terms of changing player relations, changing owner relations, what it means for the economics of the NBA. So first, the basketball. The Raptors have been the second seed in the East for a few years now, but haven't really had long-term playoff success other than when they reached the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016. They still lost in 6 games to the Cavs, but with a team like that, that's a pretty good result considering you have a few unproven names in there at the time being Lowry and DeRozan, who up to that point had kind of been considered playoff chokers, and even now to this point they're still really considered playoff chokers. So to reach Game 6 of an Eastern Conference Finals is pretty good. This most recent year, however, though, they got swept in the second round in 4 games by the Cavs, which arguably, not even arguably, were most certainly even worse than the 2016 team. So, like it or not, in Toronto, they were definitely in need for a change basketball-wise. And when you have a player like Kawhi available on the market, that's the kind of trade you go for every time. Kawhi is a proven talent. He's better in pretty much every asset than DeRozan. DeRozan probably more athletic off the initial step, and is more of a dunker. But Kawhi, he's got the handles. His vision's probably better, although DeMar's passing is definitely underrated. Kawhi's a sniper, and he's the best perimeter defender in the NBA, something which DeMar DeRozan clearly has never been considered. So, if you're the Raptors, basketball-wise, you probably make this trade every single time. LeBron's just left the East, which means now is as good of a time as any. Larry's getting up there. I think he's 31, 32 now. You don't have a whole lot of years left of Supreme Larry. You've got a few other good pieces around. It's probably the time to make the trade. In terms of the Spurs, this was never really a basketball trade. The Spurs wanted to get rid of the thorn in the side, being Kawhi Leonard, which had been a problem for the Spurs for the whole year after the whole problem with his rehab, him wanting out from the Spurs organization. This isn't really a solution which you can work around. Unlike the situation with LaMarcus Aldridge, where he demanded a trade and Greg Popovich managed to relay to him a new role and kind of give him a new confidence in the Spurs organization. It seems like Kawhi Leonard more or less had his mind made up for a very long time. So when you consider that, to get a player like DeMar DeRozan in return for a player that most definitely did not want to stay with this organization, that's a pretty good return. There's probably not many players that were offered to them which were better than DeMar DeRozan. So I think if the Spurs, although it sucks to see Kawhi go, getting DeMar DeRozan in return is probably about as good as you get it. They got Jakob Poeltl as well, who is not really... He's a filler. Okay, he's not a great player. They also lost Danny Green, which I'm sure will probably hurt them more than people realize. Danny Green was a fantastic player for the Spurs. In the 2014 finals, he smoked the Heat. His 3-and-D is something which the league really, really wants with current climate. So that's another great pickup for Toronto. I'm not really sure why the Spurs had to include him in the trade, considering Kawhi Leonard has advertised himself as fully healthy, especially we just saw he passed the Raptor physical. So that's the kind of player where it seems as though the Spurs were kind of put into a corner by other weak trade offers, and to get a player like DeRozan in return, they had to offer up a piece like Danny Green. In terms of how this is going to affect their seedings for both teams, I think the Raptors have still got a great shot at getting the number 2 seed in the East. I think they will get the number 2 seed in the East. I don't think we'll see them take the number 1 over Boston, simply because with the return of Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, that's by far the best team in the East. That team would probably be the 2nd seed in the West as well. They're that good, especially with Brad Stevens coaching. They brought Marcus Smart back. The return from injuries, like I said, Al Horford still contributing. That's a really solid team. So I think you're still going to see Toronto take the second seed. Lowry and Kawhi Leonard plus Nick Nurse as the new coach. We'll have to see how he goes. Firing Dwayne Casey, I'm still not agreeing with that. But regardless, that's definitely a team to watch in the East. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals if Kawhi goes all in and really is as healthy as he claims to be now, especially having passed the Raptor physical. In terms of the Spurs, they finished number 6 last year without Kawhi Leonard. Just LaMarcus Aldridge the whole year. LaMarcus was an All-NBA player, and once again, Greg Popovich showed why he is the best coach in the NBA and the best coach of all time. So, when you consider that they're going to be getting a player like DeRozan to replace the void that Kawhi left, that's going to be another really solid team. People are leaving the Spurs out of their playoff rankings thus far. That's a really worrisome thing to say. When was the last time the Spurs missed the playoffs? Before Tim Duncan got there. That's a really long time ago. So, no, the Spurs will not miss the playoffs. They'll not get kicked out by the Nuggets. The Nuggets are not as good as the Spurs. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs... They could be honestly anywhere from 8 to 5. You got teams like Portland, New Orleans, Minnesota, the Jazz, the Lakers, all in there vying for those few spots. Rockets and Warriors will top the seedings again. The Jazz might take another step up, but you got a whole pile of teams really competing there from 8 to 5. So we'll have to see how the Spurs go. We'll have to see if DeMar DeRozan elevates his game once again. He added a bit of a 3-point shot last season, though not really enough to make a huge difference to his arsenal. But when you consider how DeMar DeRozan and how many players have flourished under Greg Popovich, then I wouldn't really be surprised if DeMar DeRozan takes another step up in his game. Especially when you consider that Greg Popovich can often get players to really contribute to the defense, players which you might not have considered otherwise to be reputable defensive players. So, when you consider that Greg Popovich tends to get the best out of his players, it wouldn't be surprising if the Spurs take not a significant, but a noticeable step up from last season. They're going to have to sort out their problems at guard with DeJounte Murray, Tony Parker having just left, and Patty Mills still there. They're going to really have to kind of sort out their identity pretty quick. I don't know what their lineup's going to look like. I don't know if they have to start Rudy Gay, if Rudy Gay will come off the bench, or if they'll find a substitute for him in someone like Davy Bertans. It's going to be a bit of experimentation. They've got time until the season starts. Greg Popovich got a bit of time with DeMar DeRozan at Team USA camp, which Kawhi Leonard did not attend. So we'll have to see how they go. They're probably already planning and organising how they're going to run their lineups next season. So for basketball, I think that's about it. I want to talk about what the Kawhi Leonard means for the Kawhi Leonard trade means for the atmosphere of the NBA, because we saw it last season with Isaiah, Avery Bradley, a few players. There's really been a deterioration of player and front office relationships in the past few years in the NBA. And what I mean by that is players are no longer dedicating themselves to a single franchise for their whole career. And the front offices are no longer hanging on to players and rewarding them for their loyalty. So front offices have become much more cold-blooded when it comes to traders, especially when you look at characters like Danny Ainge. The league, the teams are trying to improve themselves. So when a trade is presented to you, it seems as though you're far more likely to take the trade now than you would have been in previous years. You look at players like Dirk, Kobe, Paul Pierce, LeBron, though not really, Michael, Scotty. They were ride or die with their teams. Same with DeMar and IT. The difference is now is that the teams would never really have considered trading those players when they knew they had it so good. The problem is with DeMar and IT is that it feels like the front offices believed they were expendable and believed that they were kind of on a ticking clock in terms of when is this player going to provide return and start winning games for us, and when are they going to start dropping off and we're going to be left with a player who thinks they're still good. Boston got away with it because if IT was still the player that he was in 2016 in the most recent season, then Boston would have been in a lot of trouble. They would have had a lot of questions about why they would have traded him, but obviously they knew that the problem with the hip was more serious than was let on. So Boston kind of got a pass with the fans from that one, simply because IT took such a significant drop-off and is now on his fourth team in 2 years. Boston, Lakers, Cleveland, and now he's on the Nuggets. That'd be interesting. I want to see how the Nuggets go. They could be a pretty decent team with IT. I'll just have to see if his injury is still harming his productivity as much as I think it's going to do. But back to DeMar. DeMar was pretty much the definition of ride or die. So when you see a player like that getting traded for someone like Kawhi, who's been labeled as a quitter and a bum and someone who quits out on his franchise, then you wonder what is really the state of relations within the NBA between the players and the front office and the owners and things like that. The problem is that it doesn't seem like there is any level of trust between players and front offices anymore. The players have been tweeting out like Damian Lillard, John Wall. They've really Vince Carter as well, not tweeting but making comments, and they're all super surprised at the DeMar trade because they all knew how loyal he was to that franchise. So it really seems like that's become a problem, and I don't really know how that's going to affect the future states of the NBA. It seems like the players are far more likely to really take matters into their own hands. So we saw with Cousins snagging his $5 million with the Golden State Warriors, Durant to Golden State, Dwayne Wade getting money in Chicago. Man, it's just not really looking good, player front office relations right now. I don't really know how that's going to develop. It doesn't seem like young rookies. You've seen in the past with rookies coming in, they'll play a couple years and they'll say, I really want to retire with this franchise. But now it's much more of a business. It's no longer entertainment. That's the thing. These players are the faces of entertainment, and so they're under much more scrutiny than your average worker, than your average individual. So because they're under much more scrutiny, they're pressured to make decisions which wouldn't make as much sense as they normally should. They're pressured to make decisions which may not be the best for them because they're the face of our entertainment and we want them to do what we want. But that's not always the best. That's not always what they want. So when you look at the increased scrutiny that the players face, you look at this changing relation within the NBA, it's kind of no wonder that this is the point that we've reached. It's not really a wonder anymore that players are looking to make money for themselves and they're looking to better their own careers and better their own livelihoods. But the problem is that it's kind of become confronting for fans when you see these entertainers, as they are, making their own independent decisions. And it's good. It's the right thing for them to do. But it's still confronting for fans because they haven't been addressed as directly by players before. And I say more fucking power to the players, okay? Because it's their jobs, it's their life, and they're not just fucking pieces of meat for us to ogle at, for us to watch, put a piece of rubber into a nylon net. They're their own people. So now that they're making their own decisions, I think we'll start seeing lots more changes within the NBA. I don't know if we'll see as much parity. Hopefully we will. Hopefully these players will this wave of forming super teams will kind of ebb and flow a bit. We're really at the peak right now with DeMarcus and KD having arrived in Golden State together. Obviously not at the same time, but they'll be playing on the same team as a 5 all-star starting lineup. Hopefully it's going to ebb and flow because it seems like these more recent rookie classes have got a better competitive edge to them, and they've been put on franchises which, although traditionally strong, have not been strong in the most recent of years. So hopefully we've got a bit of competition going on. It's going to be interesting to see how everyone develops. I hope they're good. I hope they're all good. And I hope we get competition back. And I hope Toronto is burnt for this DeMar trade because that's really fucking dog. I'm not going to lie. I also hope Philadelphians can go fuck themselves. I think I've come to the end of this little spiel that I've wanted to say. So I might just cut it off there at about 15 minutes. I think next week we'll go back to a more traditional format. I don't know. I kind of like doing it like this. The past episodes haven't really been as funny as I'd have liked them to be. But naturally, since I'm just a purely charismatic individual, I've got a lot of viewers, and I've made a lot of money off this podcast. That's what's funding me, helping me. I just bought a yacht the other day. But yeah, it didn't really have as much rooms as I'd liked, and it also hasn't. This podcast hasn't really helped me fund any of my financial investments. I've been trying to get into a property investment. But anyway, hopefully, if I write some more funny lines and get people laughing, then I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Tune in next time. I'll have a bit of a better episode for you this time. I just wanted to get this off my chest. Fuck Philadelphia. Thanks, guys. See you later.